Good evening, and welcome to our Wednesday night devotional. Before we get started, we have a couple announcements that need to be made. Charles Durham, who had been taken or had been told to go to the hospital because they were saying he had kidney failure and all kinds of other things going on, is back home. He said he's feeling really well, really good, but that the doctors have no idea why he got better or what was causing him to feel bad in the first place or have the bad test results in the first place. So continue to keep him in your prayers and Linda as well. Shirley McDaniel, or Meemaw, as most people know her by, is back home. She doesn't have a lot of strength right now, and she's kind of depressed just sitting there by herself all the time. But tomorrow is her birthday. So if you can, give her a call and wish her happy birthday. It will brighten up her day and she will love it. Guaranteed. Also, remember in your prayers, Lillian Thompson, that's Lawanda's sister. Her house got destroyed by some of the storms that came through. And so we need to keep her and the family in our prayers. Now, on to the story for the day. Jesse has a garden. And due to having this garden, we needed places to plant things. And so we've got a raised garden that we've been building. Now, in order to have a raised garden, you have to build up things and you have to have something else, dirt. And we didn't want to dig a whole bunch of holes in our yard to find dirt to put in this raised thing. And so we called upon someone who we know has a lot of dirt. That would be Jesse's sister and brother-in-law, Rick. And so they were kind enough yesterday to drive the hour and a half or less, since Rick was driving, with a trailer of dirt that they estimated was somewhere around 3 tons of dirt on the trailer. And they came, got to the house, they pulled in to the driveway, and Rick asked me, he says, now do you want me to park it here, or is there a way I can go around the back? Because the garden part's in the backyard. And so I said, yeah, you can go around the back and pull in. It didn't go well. He backed out, drove around, came in the backyard, and had a little bit of momentum going. And Jesse wanted to make sure that he didn't run over some peach trees we had just planted. And so she waved at him to make sure that he didn't go a certain direction, and he slowed down, and then he stopped, and then he got stuck and couldn't move anymore. Well, after that, in order to get the thing out, the truck that he had, plus the 3 tons of dirt, we had to hook a 60-foot tow cable to it, and Jesse took the Suburban around and hooked it to that, and she had to drive forward and pull on the drive on the road and pull while he had it in reverse. And eventually, through all of that, we finally got it out. Now, why am I telling you this story? Because somebody got to video the whole thing, and it was fun. You know, I'm standing there with the video camera, or with the phone rather, videoing the whole thing, and watching as Jesse's driving slowly to make sure, you know, there's not any damage, and watching the truck and the trailer go backwards, and then watching the Suburban stop, and then going again, and finally it gets all out, and there are some really nice ruts in the backyard now, like slip and slide size. But the whole point in bringing this up is because Jesse wanted to see what it looked like on video. And for illustration purposes, I'm watching this whole thing going on, and I'm holding the phone, and as I'm, you know, I look over every now and then to see if I'm getting everything in the shot, and then I'm watching what's really happening, and I'm doing this. You watch the video, and it's going down to the grass, then up, down to the grass, then up, down to the grass, then up. Now, why is it that if you were to watch that video, it's not focused on what's going on there? Well, it's because I wasn't focused on just the one thing. I had my focus on watching it in real life trying to make sure it worked, and also trying to get it on video, trying to focus on the two things. I didn't do a good job of either one. And that can happen to us in our lives too. People lose their focus. They try to focus on too many things. They got too many irons in the fire, or they're trying to focus on following Jesus, but also on their job. Following Jesus, but also on fun things that they may have off on the side. If you remember in Matthew chapter 14, Jesus walks on the water. We all remember about Jesus walking on the water. He's walking on the water, and the disciples see him, and they get scared. And they say, or they think it's a ghost. But Jesus says, no, it's me. Don't be afraid. And Peter says, well, if it's you, call me out there. And so Jesus calls him out there, and Peter gets off the boat, and he starts walking to Jesus. And he's doing just fine. He actually stepped out of the boat, and as long as he kept his focus on Jesus, he was fine. Problem is, whenever he started looking around at other things, he saw the storm. He saw the waves that were crashing, and he began to be afraid. He stopped looking to Jesus. He lost his focus on Jesus, and he started to sink. And then he cried out because he was sinking, and then Jesus had to rescue him. And Jesus basically said, you of little faith, why did you doubt? Well, he doubted because he lost focus. You may remember Jesus gave a parable of the sower. Some people call it the parable of the soils, where the rock or the seed is cast on all these different soils. Some of it was good soil, some of it was thorny soil, some of it was rocky soil. And he said that the thorny soil represented people who they hear the word and they sprout up, but they never bear fruit because of the cares and troubles of this life, the worries of this life. In other words, they get distracted. They lose their focus. Now, if you are a Christian, if you have obeyed the gospel, you have said to Jesus, you are the most important person in my life. I want to give my life to you. I want to live for you. I want you to save me from my sins. And part of that is a commitment that you will follow him. And we all want to follow Jesus if we're Christians. The problem is we often lose our focus. Sometimes we catch ourselves. We start to lose our focus, and then we'll realize, oh, I've lost my focus. Like me, videoing. Oh, yeah, I catch myself. I'm not focused on the right thing. Not focused on making sure that was in the video. But I kept getting distracted, and I kept losing the picture. Well, sometimes we catch ourselves, we're distracted from being what we ought to be, and we catch ourselves, and then we get back to doing what we should. If we walk in the light as he is in the light, we have fellowship one with another. 1 John chapter 1. And verse 7, well, walking in the light means you have a certain direction. You have to be focused on that direction. Paul said in Philippians chapter 3 that he presses toward the mark of the prize of the high calling of God in Christ Jesus. He continually looked forward, pressed forward to the prize. He was focused on that prize. We have a focus, or at least we ought to have a focus, but as humans, we lose our focus sometimes. It's important for us that we examine ourselves to see whether we're in the faith. That's what Paul said to the Corinthians. Check yourself and see, have I lost my focus? Have I let all the stuff that's going on in the news caused me to lose my focus? Am I more worried about the latest update on the news, the latest update on the virus, the latest update on the shutdowns of businesses, the latest update on whatever political thing, or starting tomorrow, the NFL draft? Am I distracted by that so much that I don't care about anything else, that I'm not focused on following Jesus? I'm focused on all these other things instead. It's when we lose our focus that things don't go the way they ought to go. I could have had a really cool video, and Jessie could have shared it on her timeline, and you guys would have looked at it and go, wow, I wonder what the story is behind Jessie having to pull a trailer and a truck backwards out of her yard, and what is all that stuff on the back of the trailer. That would have made for a great video if I'd been paying attention to the video. But I wasn't focused on that, and so it is what it is, and it'll probably never see the light of day, I hope. But that's something. It's okay if I lose focus on filming something. That's not that really that big of a deal. But if I lose focus on following Jesus, if I lose focus on living the Christian life, if I lose focus of the goal of being with the Father and the Son in eternity in heaven, then that has a lot more dire consequences. Because there are people who, they'll start off great. They'll start off focused on the Lord, but then they'll lose track, and then they never get back on track. God understands we're going to sin. We're going to fall down. We're going to trip. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to sin. But it's what we do afterwards. Do we let the distractions keep us distracted like Satan wants? Satan wants to distract us and just keep our minds away from God, or keep our minds so focused on other things that we can't focus on God the way we should. So look at your life today. Look at what's going on in your life and ask yourself, is my focus where it needs to be? And if it's not, refocus. Make that correction. Go to God in prayer and ask Him for forgiveness, and just get back on that road. Get back on the road to following God and keep your focus on Him. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope you have a great rest of the week. If you'd like to watch some more lessons, feel free to click here or click here. You can stop anytime now.